I'd first like to introduce our speakers. On behalf of the Minister of Transport, Infrastructure and Communities, the Honourable Denis LaBelle, we have Chris Workington, Member of Parliament for Peace River. And on behalf of Aquatera, Andy Beal, Chair of our Board of Directors. As well, we also have representatives of our shareholders in attendance. I'd like to welcome Mayor Bill Gibbon from the City of Grande Prairie, Mayor Claude Legacy from the Town of Sexsmith, and Deputy Reeve Ross Sutherland from the County of Grande Prairie. I'd also like to acknowledge our Board of Directors in attendance today, Rick Fligger and David Ernest. And also welcome representatives of our staff and the media here. I'd now like to welcome Chris Workington to the podium.
Well, thank you, Baron. It's a privilege for me to be here today. It's a beautiful day in the Peace Country, and it's always good to be home. It's even better to be at home when I've got some money in tow. So I've always been one of these people that have advocated strongly that the money should return to where it's come from. It feels more familiar there, and so it's always good when we have money coming back to the province of Alberta. Today, I do want to bring greetings on behalf of the Minister of Infrastructure and Transportation, Denis LaBelle. He would have loved to have been here, but he has other responsibilities. I also want to bring greetings on behalf of my colleagues across this country that represents constituencies across this country. And of course, we want to bring greetings on behalf of our Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Stephen Harper. Today is an important day for the Grande Prairie and region, the area that is serviced by Aquatera. Today is a day where we at the federal level recognize the important work that Aquatera has undertaken over the last years to build an infrastructure network that better serves our local community. The Government of Canada recognizes the essential role that essential infrastructure plays in all of our communities. Over the last number of years, we have invested over $33 billion in infrastructure in communities across this country. I'm very proud to say that the Peace Country has done well. We have got more than our fair share out of this, and today is an extension of that continuation. But we recognize the reason we've got more than our fair share is because we recognize that there are major stresses on our infrastructure in northern Alberta. This continues to be the place that is leading the country in terms of the local economy, which means that more people are moving here, businesses are moving here, and therefore there's an absolute necessity for an expansion of the infrastructure that exists here today. Those of you in this room know full well the necessity that and the need for an expansion to the wastewater system here in Grande Prairie. Oftentimes, we in our community, we take for granted what is below the surface, but we recognize here in this room as well at the federal level the necessity to continue to build an infrastructure that will support long-term economic development and growth. Grande Prairie is poised to lead the country in terms of growth, better than most other communities across this country. The region around has benefited greatly from the attraction of people to our community. Just here a couple of weeks ago, we were again awarded the most entrepreneurial city and region in the country. It was recognized that we have an entrepreneurial community. This is the third year running, and something that I think we can all be proud of. But it's a recognition that more people will be coming, that businesses will continue to locate here. And it's essential that we have the essential infrastructure to service these folks that are coming. The worst thing would be, and the worst thing has been for other communities, seeing an opportunity in their community not being able to service those opportunities. We want to continue to have the infrastructure that's necessary to adequately accommodate the jobs, opportunity, prosperity that will come over the next number of years. So on behalf of the Government of Canada, on behalf of the Minister, today I'm pleased to announce that the federal government will be contributing a $10 million contribution to Aquatera and specifically to the shareholders. And truly the shareholders are the municipalities, but the municipalities are the people. This is an important investment. We at the federal level recognize that essential infrastructure is necessary, but that the cost of that infrastructure cannot be borne solely by the local ratepayers. We need to continue to ensure that families are well cared for, that they don't have to bear the entire financial burden. And that's why it is a privilege for me to bring some of those taxes back that those families have paid at the federal level to invest in infrastructure like this. this. So again, on behalf of the Government of Canada, on behalf of the Minister, the Prime Minister, and my colleagues, we want to congratulate Aquatera as well as the municipalities for their continued work. And we appreciate our long-standing relationship and believe that this contribution will continue to develop that relationship and, more importantly, provide a better service and a long-term service to the community. Thanks so much.
We'll now play a brief video that overviews our treatment process. You'll get a chance to see what some of the benefits of this announcement will be to the region.
It goes down the drain, but where does your wastewater go in the Grande Prairie region? Aquatera would like to tell you how we take raw wastewater, treat it through a complex process, and return it back to the Wapiti River clean and ready to return to the ecosystem. The process, like everything that Aquatera does, begins with you. Wastewater will snake its way through kilometers of underground pipe until it arrives at the wastewater treatment plant. The raw sewage, also known as influent, is lifted into the treatment plant by 2 screw pumps. The first step of treatment is for the raw wastewater to enter the treatment plant's headworks room. It is at this point that any grit and rags within the sewage is removed from the liquid stream before it enters the primary settling tanks. Once there, solids migrate to the bottom while grease separates and floats to the top. Heavy solids and grease are then separated from the liquid stream and are sent to the dissolved air flotation system for further treatment. While in the dissolved air flotation system, the solids and grease are thickened into sludge prior to entering the digesters. It is in the digesters that the microorganisms feed on the thickened sludge. The treatment process will continue until the sludge has met Class A sludge classification, which means it has a total and fecal coliform count less than 1,000 CTUs a gram. The digested sludge then goes through the sludge dewatering process, which occurs in large centrifuges. A sludge dewatering centrifuge uses the simple principle of spinning the digested sludge to force the water out through specifically designed screens. The dissolved and suspended particles remaining in the sewage following primary treatment then make their way through a bioreactor. At this point, the microorganisms that are under aeration use the dissolved and suspended particles as food for their own growth and reproduction. Odor control is an ongoing process of gathering gases that are produced during the treatment process. Air is drawn into the biofilter to reduce odors and is delicately balanced with the gases generated without impacting the digestion operation. Our systems are continually enhanced for optimization of this process. The treated sewage then enters the secondary clarifiers. It is here that the microorganisms are returned back to the system to be reused. After going through the secondary clarifiers, the treated effluent is now clean and ready to be returned to the Wapiti River. 80% of what Aquatera takes from the Wapiti River to be treated for tap water is returned as treated effluent. Beginning in early 2013, Aquatera will begin major upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant. With the Grande Prairie region's population growing by nearly 18,000 people in the last 5 years, these upgrades are needed not only to keep up with past growth, but to allow for future growth in the Grande Prairie region. In April 2013, Aquatera will begin construction on the second phase of upgrades that will cost nearly $58 million, $10 million of which will be contributed through a Government of Canada grant. Aquatera will see the addition of 2 new biological nutrient removal reactors, which will help us meet current and future regulatory requirements. There will also be the addition of 2 new circular secondary clarifiers. A new centrifuge building will be constructed to house upgraded sludge dewatering equipment. Through the upgrades, the wastewater treatment plant will see an increased hydraulic capacity, which will increase from the current 22 million liters to 34 million liters per day, an increase in capacity of 58%. These upgrades will allow Aquatera not only to meet our regulatory obligations, but to also meet the regional growth that's in and around Grande Prairie. Grande Prairie is among many regions in Alberta and Canada that must increase wastewater treatment standards to meet new regulations. The current treatment plant was built over 25 years ago and is currently running at full capacity. Future growth in the region is tied directly to the treatment of wastewater. Aquatera is continually finding ways to be more innovative, and upgrading the wastewater treatment plant is further proof that our vision is securely tied to the future. We want to promote further growth and development in our region, while promoting our principles of innovating and leading the development of best practices and environmental stewardship. Remember, the next time you send something down the drain, it is only the beginning of a long journey back to the Wapiti River through an extensive and soon-to-be enhanced treatment process. Water, Earth, Innovation, Aquatera.
Thanks, Baron. It's nothing like a good sewage movie in the morning to get your juices going, I'll tell you that. That and $10 million from the federal government, both of those work just fine. Chris, I'm going to be standing at the long line of people that are here to thank you for the federal government's contribution to our wastewater treatment plant. On behalf of Aquatera, we thank you, the Government of Canada, for the contribution. There's roughly 60,000 people in Grande Prairie that will be affected directly by this donation immediately. There will be 60,000 people in this city and surrounding area that are tied to our wastewater treatment plant that will enjoy fees that are more competitive, that are lower than their counterparts around Alberta in most cases, because of the federal government's willingness to come to the table and contribute to a very expensive project for us. This contribution has substantial cost savings to everyone that is our customers and stakeholders, and so that will not only include houses, apartments, but will also include the developers in the region, will also include the home builders in the region, will include the businesses in the region. So this will be a tremendous impact. Thank you very much. I did want to make an observation about what it's like to work with Chris on one of these projects. I can tell you that he puts in a lot of hard work. He may come here and speak some very nice words and hand over a check for $10 million. I can tell you in the background that he works extremely hard at getting this project through to fruition. There was constant coaching and constant help for multiple months putting all of this together. So thank you very much. I don't think everybody understands that the surface that we see involves a lot of hard work below it. So thank you, Chris. Also want to thank the Government of Canada for the infrastructure plan in general that has targeted water and wastewater as priorities. This will help not only our region but other regions. As Chris mentioned, there's substantial amounts of money that have come from the Government of Canada into these types of projects. Thank yous also need to be made on behalf of our river. Might sound a little strange, but we as an organization recognize our environmental stewardship and the requirement that we have to make sure that our footprint in this region is as small as possible. This upgrade will have a few effects. One effect will be that there will be fewer nutrients going back into the river. That means that our already clean operation will be cleaner and be up to a higher standard and help us stay ahead of the regulations that are coming at us both provincially and federally. I also have to thank on behalf of the Board of Directors and Management the work of the staff in helping us put this project together. Again, when you talk about work that's done below the surface, the staff put a lot of effort into the planning level of this project. They worked with the engineers and the designers. They put a lot of effort in at the design level and at the value engineering level. And I truly believe that we have a much better system coming to us because of the work that many of the staff here have put into that project. And we need to thank you and recognize all of that hard effort. I can tell you that some of the byproducts of the changes should also include a little less smell within the south region of Grande Prairie. Explain to me how moving centrifuges and where they get loaded and those types of things will really help with the way our system operates. But also throughout the system, the improvement should also have a side benefit of making us a little less noticeable also within the city of Grande Prairie. I also want to talk a little bit about our goals as a company and how this donation, or grant rather, helps us fulfill those goals. One of the strategic plans that Aquatera has put together is that we have a goal of making sure that our rates are at or below the median level of rates for all similar utility users in the province of Alberta. We have worked very hard as an organization to push that strategic goal forward by streamlining processes, by cutting costs in a lot of different areas. But there's a continuous pressure on an organization such as ourselves by the high cost of construction and the high cost of developing facilities. We will be able to maintain that goal a lot more easily as a result of the contribution by the Government of Canada. And that is a very big step for us, and it is a very big step for our region. So I want to thank you for that. And I can also tell you that our board met multiple times over the last 3 months trying to decide what to do if the federal government monies weren't available to us. And I can tell you on the very pleasurable side, because they are available to us, we have a much better system going into Grande Prairie at a much lower cost that will be delivered in a quicker fashion than otherwise possible. So thank you very much, Chris, for the work that you've done for us and for the grant that you've given us today. Thank you.
I'd just like to add my personal thanks to the City of Grande Prairie for their support throughout this application process, and in particular, thank you, Chris, for your diligent efforts on our behalf in securing this funding. It'll provide lasting benefits, as Andy described, to our residents, the businesses, and really in the end to the environment as well, with the improved processes that we'll have. The video that you saw we'll make available on our YouTube channel, aquatera.ca. And so that really ends the formal portion of our presentation today. We'll just in a minute or two have an opportunity for the media to ask questions behind me here. I'd like to thank you all for coming here today, and again, thanks, Chris, for all your efforts.
Well, this is really fundamental infrastructure to the success of a community like Grande Prairie. We know that we're going to continue to grow. We know that the water treatment plant as it was maxed out for capacity. And I think everybody in the community really recognizes that the growth is not slowing down in Grande Prairie. It's going to continue well into the future. So this type of investment in infrastructure is very, very timely, even though it's not one of those things that people see. This is a service that people just expect to work. And I think that's where these partnerships between levels of government are really, really important. It's one of those things that people don't think about and don't want to think about. They just want it to work, and I think that that's where municipalities, the federal, provincial governments, all working together, can have an big impact on providing the services that residents want and expect. But I also think that this really speaks to the success of the Aquatera model. The federal government has shown significant confidence in this partnership that we formed, which is really unique in Alberta, and I think it shows that the decision to form Aquatera is really the right decision that was made a number of years ago.
Any increase in capacity definitely allows more development. We were getting a little crowded on certain aspects in our Claremont wastewater treatment, and this will definitely help us down the road here expand things going north, yes.